Welcome back to the deep dive. I am incredibly excited for today's session because we're grappling with a question that, if we are being really truly honest with ourselves, kind of haunts every single one of us.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a question of taste, sure. We all want to have good taste, but
Yeah.
even more importantly, it's a question of guilt.
It really is the cultural paradox that defines the modern human experience, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
that massive gaping chasm between who we want to be and who we actually are when the doors are closed.
Exactly. And here's the question that literally keeps me up at night. Why is it that despite our best intentions, despite that stack of classic award-winning literature sitting on our nightstand gathering dust, you know the exact stack I'm talking about.
Oh, I have one too.
Right. Why do we instinctively, almost uncontrollably prefer a Steven Spielberg movie over the poetry of T.S. Eliot? Why do we say we want high art, but we actually consume pop culture?
It's that fundamental tension. We have this aspirational idea of what we think we should like, the complex, the difficult, the highbrow, the things that signal I am a smart, refined person.
Yeah.
But then there's what we actually consume when no one is watching.
And I'll be the first to admit it to you, the listener, right now. I have felt that guilt. I feel it all the time. I'll sit there on a Tuesday night, scrolling through streaming services, and I see the award-winning documentary about socioeconomic policy in the 19th century.
A very noble choice.
A noble choice. And I see the dense philosophical drama with subtitles that won the Palme d'Or. And I think I should watch that. That will make me smarter. That will be enriching. That is what a good person watches.
And then what happens? Walk us through the failure of will.
My thumb just keeps moving. It just bypasses it. It's like my thumb has a mind of its own entirely. And I land on an action movie where things explode every 5 minutes,
Yeah.
or a reality show where people are throwing wine at each other at a dinner party.
Or a soap opera?
Or a soap opera, yeah.
Yeah.
And I click play. And then 5 minutes in, I think, what is wrong with me? Am I shallow? Am I just completely failing at being an intellectual?
And the mission of today's deep dive is to absolve you of that guilt and absolve the listener too. Because what we are going to explore today, based on this really fascinating text we've been analyzing, is that this isn't a failure of your taste.
It's not.
It isn't a failure of your character or your education either. It is a triumph of your biology.
See, that is the hook I needed to hear. So we aren't bad people for liking explosions and soap opera drama. We aren't just culturally bankrupt.
Not at all.
Yeah.
In fact, the argument here is that if you didn't like those things, you might not be here today. Or at least your ancestors wouldn't have survived long enough to pass on the genes that made you.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our goal today is to look at entertainment movies, books, reality TV through the lens of evolutionary biology, which I have to say sounds like a strange mix at first.
It is, yeah.
Usually when I think of evolutionary biology, I think of charts and fruit flies, genetic drift, and I don't know, very dry textbooks written by people in lab coats who haven't seen a movie since 1974.
And that is exactly the first misconception our source corrects. The text argues that evolution is not dry science. If you actually look at the subject matter of evolutionary biology, what it's actually fundamentally about, it has all the elements of a primetime soap opera.
That's soap opera, like Days of Our Lives or General Hospital.
Exactly. Think
Okay.
about it. What drives evolution? What are the actual mechanisms that determine who lives and who dies?
I mean, I guess survival of the fittest.
Right, but what does that look like in practice? It looks like love, sex, violence,
Yeah.
compassion, teamwork, conspiracies.
Okay, when you list them like that, it does sound a bit more dramatic. It sounds less like a classroom and a lot more like HBO.
It's all there. Marriage and infidelity, child rearing and chases, loyalty and betrayal, and family.
Yeah.
It's all about kin selection and genetic legacy. Who is sleeping with whom? Who is raising whose child? Who is stabbing whom in the back to get ahead?
That literally sounds less like a biology lecture and more like the plot summary of Game of Thrones.
Precisely. The author of our source material actually makes a very humorous but really insightful assertion. They say that no matter how hard the science dweebs, their words not mine, try to make this stuff boring, this field of research actually belongs on the front pages of Maxim and Cosmopolitan, not just in academic journals.
I love that image so much. A peer-reviewed science journal sitting right next to the tabloids at the grocery store checkout. Like top 10 ways to pass on your genes right next to how to lose 10 pounds in 10 days.
The quote from the text is, "We've got to get it right before Jerry Springer gets his hands on it." Because the core dynamics of evolution are the exact same dynamics that fuel trashy daytime TV. The content is identical, only the vocabulary is different.
So we are basically going to explore how our brains are wired, or jury-rigged, as the text says, and why that specific wiring makes us absolute suckers for a good chase scene or a cheating scandal.
That's the plan. We're going to pop the hood on the human mind and see why the engine runs the way it does. We're going to look at the architecture of the mind and see why stupid entertainment is actually brilliant engineering.
Let's dive into this concept of the soap opera in our genes. The source makes a direct comparison between evolutionary biology and a soap opera script. You mentioned the themes earlier: infidelity, loyalty, the slap fights.
Yes, there is a line in the text where they mention a slap fight between adulteresses. Now, if you see that on TV, you think lowbrow entertainment.
Right, you roll your eyes, you think, oh, look at this trash.
Exactly. But in the Pleistocene era, that chunk of time where humans did most of their evolving, that wasn't entertainment. That was a critical conflict regarding resource allocation and mate guarding.
Right. It's funny to us now sitting on our couches, but it was literally life or death then. If you lose the mate, you lose the genetic future. If someone steals your resources, your children starve.
Exactly. The source suggests that the reason we react instinctively to soap operas is that they are playing out ancient dramas. We aren't watching them because we are shallow. We are watching them because these stories replay survival scenarios that our brains are programmed to prioritize above almost everything else.
There's a great quote attributed to Aristotle in the text. The stupid is always dramatic.
A paraphrase, surely, but a very poignant one. The stupid is always dramatic.
Why is the stupid dramatic, though? What does that even mean in this specific context?
Because stupid in this context usually means basic, primal, impulsive. It refers to conflicts that don't require deep philosophical parsing to understand.
Right.
If someone sleeps with your partner, that is a dramatic crisis. It hits you right in the gut. You don't need a degree in ethics to know there is a conflict there. It's binary. It's immediate.
Whereas smart conflict, like say a debate over municipal tax code,
Is completely boring. I mean, it might be important, it might be critical for the functioning of society, but it's not dramatic in the biological sense. It doesn't make your pulse race or your palms sweat.
So soap opera writers, are they geniuses?
Well, the text suggests they are, perhaps cynically pushing Pleistocene buttons. They know exactly what triggers our attention. They know that our neocortex, the smart part of our brain, might say this is trash, but the ancient parts of our brain are absolutely glued to the screen.
The source actually gives a hypothetical script pitch that is hilarious. I really want to read this out because it captures the essence so perfectly. Imagine a writer pitching to a network executive. It goes like this. Have Rebecca sleep with Lance, who's married to her sister Destiny, with whom she is in competition for the inheritance.
And then have Destiny walk in on them, then end the episode as the sisters make eye contact.
It's perfect. It's literally every show I've ever binge-watched. And the pitch continues. We'll pick up on that storyline 5 episodes later. Right now, we have to get back to Alexandra falling in love with her kidnapper.
Stockholm Syndrome and kin selection all wrapped up in 1 hour block.
It really highlights that subtlety, schmuddlety attitude. The text literally says this crap is automatically dramatic.
And that's the key takeaway for this section. It is automatically dramatic. You don't have to force yourself to pay attention to it. Your brain sees competition for inheritance and romantic betrayal, and it just wakes up. It signals, pay attention, this is important data.
Because hypothetically, if I'm a hunter-gatherer and I ignore the fact that my rival is stealing my inheritance or my mate, I lose.
You lose your genetic legacy. That's the bottom line. So we are the descendants of the people who paid attention to the gossip.
We're the descendants of the busybodies.
Yes, we are the descendants of the drama queens and the busybodies who knew exactly who was sleeping with whom, because that information was currency. If you didn't care about the soap opera of the tribe, you probably didn't successfully navigate the tribe, and you didn't pass on your genes.
So when I'm watching The Real Housewives, I'm basically doing evolutionary research.
You are exercising your survival instincts.
Okay.
Just safely on a couch,
Yeah.
with no actual risk of losing your inheritance. You're simulating the social politics of the tribe without the calories burned.
I'll take it. I will absolutely take that validation. But let's look at the actual hardware of all this. Why do we have these buttons that can be pushed so easily in the first place? The text talks about the architecture of the mind.
Yes. This is central to understanding the whole high art versus pop culture war. The source introduces the concept of the triune brain.
The 3 brains, I remember learning a bit about this in school, but the text makes it sound very chaotic. It's not a graceful system at all, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
The idea is that humans don't have one single unified brain that makes decisions harmoniously. We have 3 distinct parts evolved over vastly different time periods that are just stacked on top of each other.
And the text describes it like a chaotic committee meeting inside the skull.
It is a committee where the members rarely agree on anything. In fact, they are often screaming at each other. It's a dysfunctional board meeting that just never ends.
Let's meet the members of this committee. First up, the oldest layer, the foundation,
Layer 1 is the reptilian hypothalamus.
the lizard brain.
Precisely.
Right.
This is the ancient core. It's located right at the base of the brainstem. Its function is pure, unadulterated survival. It really hasn't changed much in hundreds of millions of years. It's functionally the same brain a crocodile has.
And what are its responsibilities? The text lists them out in a very specific way.
The text calls them the 4 Fs: feeding, fighting, fleeing, and, well, the text says flocking, but then it immediately adds fornicating.
The classic joke. Feeding, fighting, fleeing, and reproduction.
All right, let's stick with the text, though. Feeding, fighting, fleeing, flocking, and fornicating. This part of the brain is entirely impulsive. It's aggressive. It is entirely focused on keeping the organism alive and replicating.
So it doesn't care about poetry.
It does not care about poetry. It cares about not getting eaten and finding a mate. It sees a sudden movement. It reacts. It sees food. It wants it. It's instantaneous. It's the part of you that physically jumps when a door slams nearby.
Okay, so that's the basement level. Who lives on the second floor?
Layer 2 is the mammalian limbic system.
The mammal brain.
Yes, this is the emotional center. Evolutionarily, this developed when we became mammals. Creatures that nurse their young, live in groups, and have complex social bonds. Think about it. Reptiles lay eggs and just walk away. Mammals stay. They nurse. They protect. They have to feel things to survive.
What's on the mammal brain's to-do list then?
Hope, anxiety, love, anger, communication, cuddling.
The text refers to this as chick stuff, which is kind of funny.
It does use that phrase, yes. But what it really means is bonding.
Yeah.
It means the soft skills of survival. It's the part of you that feels warm when you see a puppy, or sad when you see someone crying on the news.
Right.
It's the part that makes you feel lonely. Lizards don't get lonely. Mammals do. This system is crucial because mammals survive by sticking together in a pack or a herd.
Okay, so we have the aggressive lizard and the emotional mammal. Who is the third member of the committee, the one supposedly in charge of all this?
Layer 3 is the neocortex,
The new kid on the block.
the bloated executive, as the text describes it. This is the newest addition in evolutionary terms. It's the wrinkly outer layer that makes human brains look so different from other animals. It is massive in humans compared to almost any other species.
And what does the executive do all day?
It philosophizes. It writes biology books. It does algebra. It strategizes. It plans for the future. It worries about the stock market. It creates tax laws.
It's the smart one.
It is the rational thinker. And its primary job is to try and keep the beast, the other two brains, in check. It tries to satisfy the lizard's hunger and the mammal's need for love, but in a way that is socially acceptable and planned out.
So the neocortex is the one telling me, hey, read T.S. Eliot tonight. It will make you a better person. Eat a salad. Save for retirement.
Correct. While the lizard is screaming, look at that explosion, eat that cake, and the mammal's crying, oh no, the puppy is lost. I love her.
It sounds exhausting. And this leads us to what the text calls the internal civil war.
Yes. The text explains that these three parts have been sloppily jury-rigged together over 300 million years. This wasn't a clean, elegant design from scratch. It was an addition, then another addition later, like a house that's been renovated by 3 different contractors who absolutely hate each other.
I love the description that they never once agreed on anything.
To be human is to be ambivalent. That is a truly profound insight from the text.
Ambivalent. Torn between two feelings.
Exactly. The text points out a great comparison. Lizards don't get neurotic about whether to bite or mate. They just do what the external stimulus tells them to do.
No second guessing.
None. Humans, however, we get neurotic. We have the impulse to bite from the reptile, the desire to cuddle from the mammal, and the social awareness from the neocortex that biting is rude and illegal.
And the text jokes that sometimes we actually date people who do both bite and mate at the same time.
Which is a perfect example of all the systems firing simultaneously.
Yeah.
We're attracted to the danger, which satisfies the reptile, but we want the connection for the mammal. It just creates a mess.
This idea of an internal conflict isn't new, though, right? The text lists a bunch of historical metaphors for this. It seems like basically every culture has noticed this split inside us.
Oh, absolutely. Human culture has been trying to explain this feeling of a split personality for millennia. We've always instinctively known we aren't of one single mind. The text mentions Freud, for instance.
Right, the superego, the ego, and the id.
Exactly. The id is the reptile. It just says, I want it now. The superego is the neocortex saying that's not proper, we must follow the rules. And the ego is the poor mediator caught in the middle, just trying to get through the day.
Then there's Plato.
Plato described the soul as a charioteer, which would be the neocortex trying to control two horses, one rational horse and one passionate wild horse. It's the exact same struggle. The charioteer is just desperately trying to keep the cart on the road.
The church has the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
A bit more theological, yes. But the tripartite structure, the three-in-one concept, remains a very powerful symbol of division and unity.
And pop culture. The text mentions Star Trek, which is the one that really clicked for me.
The classic trio, Captain Kirk, Spock, and Dr. McCoy. It's almost a perfect allegory for the triune brain.
Because Spock is obviously the neocortex, pure logic, no emotion. He's always saying that as a logical captain. He completely suppresses the animal side.
And McCoy is the mammalian limbic system. Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer. He's all emotion, all compassion, outrage, fear. He feels absolutely everything. He's the heart of the ship.
And Kirk.
Kirk is the one trying to get them to work together to just survive the mission. He's the mediator. Or sometimes Kirk is the reptile fighting the alien and kissing the green girl. He represents the action. But essentially, the bridge of the Enterprise is exactly what's going on in your brain.
And let's not forget Looney Tunes, the classic devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other.
It's the universal human experience. We feel divided because biologically speaking, we are divided.
There is another one mentioning Clive Matson, a rating teacher, who calls them the writer, the editor, and the crazy child.
I really like that one. The crazy child is the creative, impulsive Stark. The editor is the neocortex, trying to clean up the grammar and make it make sense for the public. And the writer has to manage both. Because if you only have the editor, the writing is perfectly correct but completely boring.
Yeah.
If you only have the crazy child, it's vibrant but totally incoherent.
Now, you're our expert here. I have to ask, is this triune brain model 100% accurate? Because the text does mention a kind of yes, but section.
Right. And it's really important to include this scientific nuance. The author acknowledges that their neuroscientist friends actually find the triune brain model, which was originally proposed by Paul MacLean in the 1960s, to be a bit simplistic. Brain science has advanced a lot since then. We know it's not just three completely separate layers sitting like a cake.
So we don't literally have a tiny lizard living inside us.
Not literally, no. The brain is highly interconnected. It's not three separate boxes that don't touch. The text explains that evolution works with what it's got, but it actively modifies components over time.
Can you give an example of that modification?
Sure. The text mentions color vision. Reptilian parts of our brain are actually employed when we see color, for instance. Yet reptiles obviously don't see color the exact same way a primate can. The machinery has been tweaked and updated.
So the old parts just get an upgrade.
Or they get repurposed entirely. The text uses a really great analogy. Hands.
Oh.
Originally, primate hands were adapted specifically for grasping trees in the jungle. That was their primary function. Later on in the savannah, those exact same hands were modified for manipulating tools. The basic physical structure is there, but the function shifts dramatically.
But the emotional core remains the same across species.
That's the argument they're making. The author uses the example of bonding with their dog to prove this.
I loved this part. It's so relatable for anyone with a pet.
They say, I don't bond with my dog because we have fascinating scientific debates.
Right. You don't bond via the neocortex. You don't sit down and discuss quantum physics with Fido.
You bond via the shared mammalian limbic system. Fear, anger, joy, sadness. When the dog is visibly happy, the human actually feels it. That connection exists because we share that middle brain layer with dogs. We are both mammals. We interpret a whimper the exact same way.
We just speak the exact same emotional language.
Exactly. And then the author drops a very humorous biological constraint to illustrate the overall disconnect between our different parts.
Oh, you mean the self-licking observation?
Yes. We have to mention it because it's in the source. They note that while evolution has modified the human body so that we cannot lick our own anatomy as a dog can,
The brain still sees the appeal.
it highlights the disconnect
Yeah.
perfectly. The desire from the reptilian and mammalian brains might be there, the hey, why not impulse, but the capability constrained by the body and the neocortex says, no, physically impossible and completely socially unacceptable. It's a funny way of showing how we are a patchwork of conflicting designs. Evolution didn't design us to be perfect. It just designed us to be functional enough to reproduce.
So we have this massive patchwork brain, we have the lizard, the mammal, and the executive, and they are all fighting for control of the remote control of our attention at all times.
And that leads us perfectly to the section on marketing to the reptile.
Channel surfing neuroscience. Because this completely helps explain why I can't look away from bad TV even when I want to.
If you are a TV executive or an advertiser or a Hollywood movie producer, you have a very specific problem. You need to capture attention. Attention is a highly scarce resource. And you have a hierarchy of compulsion to work with to get it.
What's that hierarchy?
Simply put, the reptilian hypothalamus is more compelling than the limbic system. And the limbic system is more compelling than the neocortex.
It's like a ladder of loudness. The reptile screams, the mammal talks loudly, and the neocortex just whispers in the background.
Exactly. So imagine you are an advertiser. You have paid millions of dollars for a 1-minute slot during the Super Bowl. You need to convince people to buy a truck or a beer. You have exactly 60 seconds to grab them before they go to the bathroom or check their phone.
What are my options as the advertiser?
Option A is you appeal to the neocortex. You reason with them. You explain the fuel efficiency, the engineering specs, the logical financial reasons to buy this specific vehicle.
Boring. I'm grabbing chips, I'm changing the channel. I do not want to think about math on a Sunday night.
Option B is you appeal to the limbic system. You show committed emotional bonds. Families hugging. Cute puppies running in a field. A soldier coming home to their kids.
Better. I might go, I might actually watch that. It tugs the heartstrings.
But option C is you appeal directly to the hypothalamus. Power, sex, dominance, fast cars, attractive models, giant explosions, really loud noises.
Sold. I'm watching. I'm not looking away.
The verdict is incredibly clear. Network executives and Hollywood moguls survive by targeting the hypothalamus. In the sheer competition for mass attention, the reptile wins every single time. It's simply louder.
The text actually compares Immanuel Kant to Jerry Springer.
A battle for the ages, truly.
On one hand, you have one of the greatest philosophers in human history, the Kant's categorical imperative. Deep ethical thought, stuff that requires intense concentration and serious moral reasoning.
And on the other hand, you have the Jerry Springer Show.
And the specific episode mentioned in the text involves people who sleep with their stepdads for money.
It is grotesque. It is incredibly trashy. And yet, if you were just casually flipping channels, where do you stop?
You stop at the train wreck, you basically have to.
The quote from the text captures this universal feeling perfectly. I'll figure out Kant's categorical imperative later. First, I want to know why that hussy thinks she all that.
Why that hussy thinks she all that. It's so true. The intellectual part of me says, turn this off, this is garbage. But the reptile part of me absolutely needs to know the outcome of this dominance hierarchy dispute.
Exactly. Who is the alpha here? Who is getting the resources? Who is being ostracized by the group? These are deeply ancient questions. Kant can wait until tomorrow. Survival politics cannot wait. We are fundamentally wired to monitor the social status of our tribe. Jerry Springer or reality TV is just a super stimulus version of tribal gossip. It hacks the system by making the stakes incredibly high and highly visible.
So this brings us to a major pivot in the discussion. We tend to call things like Jerry Springer or big action movies shallow, and we call philosophy or classical poetry deep.
But the source completely challenges this definition. This is what we can call the evolutionary psychology twist.
Let's redefine shallow and deep.
Think about all the things we traditionally call shallow. Lust, the drive for prestige, vanity, envy, greed, murderous rage.
Those are basically the 7 deadly sins. We are taught our whole lives to suppress them. We are taught they're just surface-level, ugly urges.
And what do we culturally call deep? Love of children, loyalty, justice, community, cooperation, respect for our elders.
The virtues, the things we all aspire to.
The central insight here is that evolutionary psychology argues the exact opposite. The shallow things are actually the deepest human verities.
Wait, how so? How is greed deeper than justice?
Because they are the oldest. They are the primal drivers that pushed our ancestors to survive in a fiercely hostile world. Lust ensured reproduction. Greed ensured resource accumulation for the winter. Rage ensured a defense against enemies. These aren't shallow surface-level traits at all. They are the absolute bedrock of our biological existence. They are the foundation upon which the nicer virtues were much later built.
So when I feel a visceral reaction to a movie scene...
And let's look at that word. Visceral literally refers to the viscera, the guts. If a story makes you feel something physically, your heart racing, your stomach churning, tears welling up in your eyes, it is because you are biologically programmed to feel it. It is entirely bypassing your intellect and hitting your ancient operating system.
It's hitting the hardware directly.
It's hitting the hardware. And the text lists specific tropes that work in entertainment and explains exactly why they work.
Let's go through a few of them. Victory against odds. Why do we love the underdog story so much? Why is Rocky such a universally good movie?
Because mathematically speaking, most of our ancestors faced totally insurmountable odds. Disease predators, starvation, rapidly changing climates. The ones who didn't triumph over those odds simply didn't pass on their genes. We are literally the descendants of the winners. So seeing someone win against the odds triggers a celebratory, yes, we survive, signal in the brain. It's a profound affirmation of life. It releases massive amounts of dopamine.
What about chase scenes? Almost every action movie has a long chase scene.
Millions of years of predator and prey dynamics. You were either the chaser or the chased. If you were bad at escaping, you got eaten. If you were bad at chasing, you starved to death. So when you watch a high-speed car chase in a Spielberg movie, your brain is effectively reliving the hunt. The adrenaline is real because the simulation feels incredibly real to the reptile brain.
And then there's The Orphan.
This is a very powerful one. The author mentions reading Dickens or watching All My Children. It really doesn't matter the genre. If you throw a mistreated orphan into the story,
The author says, I'm weeping like an old woman.
and if someone is actively cruel to that orphan, the author notes, I'm ready to kill.
That's the mammalian limbic system kicking in, right? Protection of the young.
Absolutely. Empathy for the vulnerable. It's the cute response.
Yeah.
It triggers a highly violent protective instinct. We are hardwired to ensure the survival of the next generation. A mistreated child is a biological emergency. It demands immediate physical action. You don't sit there and think, is this plot device manipulative? You just think, save the child.
Other triggers mentioned in the text are things like the dashing stranger seducing the wife, or the evil tyrant vanquished by villagers.
And all of those relate to tribal cohesion, mate retention, and overthrowing dominant aggressors to ensure fairness and survival in the group. Justice isn't just some high-minded philosophical concept, it's a vital survival strategy. If you let the tyrant hoard all the food, the tribe dies. So watching the tyrant fall on screen is deeply biologically satisfying.
It's amazing. We sit there thinking we're watching light entertainment, but we are essentially watching a high-definition simulation of Pleistocene survival challenges.
And that brings us back perfectly to the hook of our deep dive. Spielberg versus Eliot.
A cost of attention.
The text contrasts T.S. Eliot with Steven Spielberg. Now, T.S. Eliot represents poetry. The text does acknowledge that poetry, musical speech, is actually hardwired in the brain. It's an ancient way of transmitting culture. Before we had writing, we had rhythm and rhyme to remember important things. But do you voluntarily pick up a book of T.S. Eliot on a Friday night after a long week?
Usually no. The text says we have to be forced to read it in 11th grade.
Exactly. Because it requires active effort. It requires the neocortex to engage, decode, and appreciate. You have to actively think about the metaphors. You have to understand the historical references. It is literal caloric work for the brain.
Whereas Spielberg,
You gladly pay money to experience Spielberg. You volunteer for it. You line up around the block. You pay $20 for a ticket and another $20 for popcorn.
why the huge difference?
Because Spielberg speaks directly to the endocrinological system. He speaks to your hormones. He evokes what is biologically universal in all of us. He doesn't stop to ask permission from your neocortex. He bypasses it entirely and goes straight for the reptile and the mammal.
The text says, when Spielberg makes a chase scene, you're reliving millions of years of predator-prey relationships that have built your endocrinological system.
That's the key right there. He is playing your internal instrument. He knows exactly which chord to strike to make you afraid or happy or relieved. He's a master puppeteer of the reptile brain.
Now, I can already hear the critics listening to this, the cultural elite. They're saying, but we can develop taste. We can appreciate the finer things. We aren't just base animals.
And the text fully acknowledges that. It says, of course, we cultural elite develop refined tastes. It specifically mentions the discreet charm of the bourgeoisie, a very highbrow classic film. We absolutely can learn to appreciate complex art. We can train our neocortex to find deep pleasure in complexity and nuance.
But the counterpoint they offer is Titanic.
Titanic works in Singapore. Titanic works in Kansas. Titanic works in Brazil.
Why is that?
Because the core story of love across class lines, combined with disaster and survival, is universal. You don't need to know the specific cultural and historical context of 1912 England to understand boy loves girl ship sinks run.
The argument being that while art pretends to reach for the universal, often cultural tastes are actually highly subjective.
Exactly. What a French intellectual finds deeply moving might be completely boring to an American teenager. A joke in one culture might be highly offensive in another. Cultural nuance is fragile and localized, but biology is the only true universal.
So the ultimate question the source poses is, what behaviors does every single human share?
Involuntary reflexes.
That's a really powerful phrase. Involuntary
You
reflexes.
don't decide to be startled. You don't rationally decide to cry when you see a tragedy. You don't decide to get an adrenaline spike during a chase. It happens to you. It is pre-cultural. It is completely pre-linguistic.
And the most successful storytellers, the Spielbergs of the world, are simply the ones who know how to trigger those reflexes.
It's written in something we can't control. As the text concludes, it's written in your face.
So let's wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground in the human brain today. We've gone from the triune brain to the soap opera of evolution.
We have. It's a lot to process.
To summarize for the listener, we have three brains: the reptile, which handles action, the mammal, which handles emotion, and the neocortex, which handles thought.
And they are rarely, if ever, in agreement.
Our guilty pleasures, the action movies, the soap operas, the reality TV, are not signs of stupidity. They are actually signs that our ancient survival mechanisms are working perfectly.
They are highly efficient biological signals. We watch because we are programmed to learn from drama. The stupid is always dramatic because drama is, at its core, a survival mechanism.
And finally, Spielberg beats Elliot in the box office, not because he is necessarily better in an artistic sense, but because he speaks the universal language of biology.
He is hacking the system.
So to you, the listener, next time you are binge-watching a show about a chaotic family feud or a high-speed car chase, do not feel guilty. Don't beat yourself up for not reading philosophy. Just tell yourself, I am stimulating my hypothalamus and keeping my survival instincts sharp.
You're just doing research.
Exactly. Now, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought from the source material. The author asks an open-ended question that really stuck with me.
What are the 8 involuntary reflexes in human communication? What are the 8 genres of mass entertainment?
If the only true universals are biological reflexes, what does that mean for the future of storytelling? Are we completely destined to just keep pushing the exact same buttons, fear, lust, anger, joy, forever? Or can the neocortex ever truly take the wheel?
It's a question really worth pondering. But until you figure it out, I think there's a fast and furious marathon on right now.
And I'm definitely there. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Stay curious.
See you next time.